Lamar Jackson is the heart of the Ravens offense. But a new contract update has created a situation that could change the future of the franchise. When I look at the situation, one question immediately comes to mind. Why haven't the Ravens been able to secure their quarterback for the next several years? The team has already shown that they want Lamar as the face and leader of this team, but new development has raised more questions behind the scenes. Ravens insider Jeff Zrebiec has shared important details about this negotiation, and his report has created new questions about where the situation could be heading. With training camp getting closer, the pressure is starting to build, and I'm going to break down what this update really means, why the Ravens need to make a move, and what the impact could be for Lamar Jackson and the entire franchise. When I look at the Lamar Jackson situation, the first thing that stands out is the silence. We're talking about the most important player on the Ravens, a quarterback who changed the level of this franchise since entering the NFL, and yet the team still hasn't been able to finalize a new contract extension with him. For a moment, it looked like Baltimore was ready to solve the situation quickly. The report that the Ravens were ready to explore extending Lamar Jackson well into his 30s created the expectation that a major extension could be coming soon. In my view, that expectation made sense because the organization has always made it clear that Lamar is a priority. But Jeff Zrebiec's update from The Athletic showed a different reality. According to him, little is known about the negotiations between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. In other words, nobody knows if talks are moving forward behind the scenes, or if both sides simply decide to wait longer before making a decision. And that's the part that creates the biggest concern. I understand that negotiations of this size take time, especially when you're dealing with a quarterback like Lamar. But the longer the situation continues without an answer, the more pressure builds on Baltimore. And now there's another important piece of this story. Steve Bisciotti's position, and why the Ravens want to resolve this before the situation becomes even more complicated. The expectation around Baltimore was that this negotiation could move forward quickly. After all, owner Steve Bisciotti made it clear earlier in the offseason that he wanted to see Lamar Jackson with a new contract as soon as possible. For a franchise that has built its identity around its quarterback, this looked like one of the Ravens' biggest priorities. Bisciotti publicly showed that the team wants to keep Lamar for many years, but time has passed and the situation remains unresolved. More than 6 months have gone by since that statement, and no extension has been announced. Jeff Zrebiec explained that there is still no deal and no indication that one is close, making it clear that this negotiation is still far from being completed. The most interesting part of this situation is that both sides have managed to keep everything completely private. Usually, contracts of this size create rumors, insider reports, and constant speculation. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have avoided any major leaks, leaving fans and analysts trying to figure out if serious conversations are happening, or both sides are simply waiting for the right moment to return to the negotiating table. In my view, the silence can be positive to a certain extent because it prevents distractions before the season. But it also creates more pressure on Baltimore, especially because the team has already made its desire to keep Lamar as the face of the franchise very clear. And now one of the biggest questions in this negotiation appears. If the Ravens want to get this deal done, is Lamar waiting for a contract closer to the biggest quarterback deals in the NFL? The next major question in this negotiation is all about money. Lamar Jackson has already proven his value in the NFL, won an MVP award, and remains one of the most dangerous players in the league. But now, with him turning 30 years old in January, every detail of his next contract could shape the direction of his career. One of the biggest comparisons in this situation is Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs quarterback had his contract adjusted to keep him in Kansas City through 2033, receiving a new average salary of $64 million per season. It's easy to understand why a deal like that would get Lamar and his team's attention, especially in a market where elite quarterbacks continue to raise the standard. The problem for the Ravens is that nobody knows what Lamar's expectations are for a new extension. The team doesn't know how many years he wants to add to the contract or how much guaranteed money he expects. And in negotiations of this size, those details can be the difference between a quick agreement and a battle that lasts for months. In my opinion, Baltimore knows it needs to reward Lamar, but it also has to protect the future of the franchise. A contract at the level of the NFL's top quarterbacks could be necessary to keep him happy, But it also creates consequences when it comes to building the rest of the roster. And while the discussion about money continues, there's another issue making the situation even more urgent for the Ravens: the massive financial impact of Lamar's current contract. Lamar Jackson's current contract is starting to create a complicated situation for the Ravens. Even though the quarterback is under contract with the team through 2027, the financial structure of this deal could put major pressure on Baltimore's salary cap in the coming years. According to Jeff Zrebiec, Lamar's impact on the salary cap in 2026 will be $84.3 million after the restructure completed in March. That number represents a huge portion of the team's financial space and could limit Baltimore's ability to extend important players or bring in new talent to strengthen the roster. A contract extension could be a way to reorganize that situation. It doesn't mean paying Lamar less, but it could create a different structure to spread out the financial impact over the next several years. For a team trying to compete for a Super Bowl, managing the quarterback's contract is one of the most important challenges for the front office. I believe this is one of the biggest reasons why the Ravens want to solve this before the next season begins. Having Lamar with a new contract would bring stability and remove a major concern from the organization. But if no decision is made, the pressure will only increase when the team returns to practice, and Lamar himself has to answer more questions about his future.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow.
The Ravens' return to training camp could put this negotiation back at the center of attention. Veteran players are scheduled to report on July 28th. And if an extension is not announced by then, Lamar Jackson will likely have to answer more questions about whether he will remain in Baltimore beyond this contract. The quarterback has already made it clear that he wants to continue with the team that drafted him in 2018. This spring, Lamar said he absolutely wants to stay with the Ravens. That statement shows there is a connection between the player and the franchise, but the NFL is also a business where financial decisions play a major role. There's a reason Lamar might want to wait longer before signing a new contract. A great season could increase his value even more, and the quarterback knows this next deal could be one of the biggest of his career. At the same time, Baltimore needs to prevent this situation from becoming a constant topic during the team's preparation for the season. In my view, the biggest challenge for the Ravens is turning an intention into a real decision. The team wants Lamar, Lamar wants to stay, but one thing is still missing: the official agreement. Now, all eyes are on whether Baltimore can resolve the situation before more questions about the quarterback's future take over the entire franchise. Lamar Jackson remains the center of everything in Baltimore, but this negotiation shows that wanting to keep a player and turning that desire into a deal don't always happen quickly. The Ravens have made it clear that they want to build the future around their quarterback, but the lack of an extension continues to create uncertainty. For me, the biggest point in this situation is that Baltimore needs to find the right balance between rewarding Lamar and protecting the structure of the team so they can keep competing. It's also clear that time is becoming a major factor in this story. The current contract, the salary cap impact, and the comparison with other elite quarterbacks in the NFL are all increasing the pressure on the franchise. I believe the Ravens understand how important Lamar Jackson is. But every month without a resolution brings even more attention and creates new questions about what happens next. Now I want to know your opinion. Do you believe Lamar Jackson and the Ravens will reach a new agreement before the season begins? Or do you think this negotiation will continue dragging on? Leave your comment, because I want to know how you see the future of the quarterback in Baltimore.
And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out, and I'll see you in the next video.